Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well today. Welcome to the Nehemiah School of Influence and National Transformation. How you doing? It's been 5 weeks since we started, and it's really been a transformative time. I hope that it's been instructive for you. Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me how you're stewarding everything that you've learned from pain to processing it in prayer with God to positioning, and now we are on to looking at people, how to mobilize the people, because nobody rebuilds a nation alone. And so this is the fifth week, and we'll look at two modules. We'll look at people, and also we also look at planning. So tell me in the chat, how you feeling? How's it been for you? In what ways are you stewarding what you're learning here in the sphere of influence that you find yourself in? Because so many times it's not the big things that we do, but the very little things that make a difference. And so this morning I woke up with that really passion in my heart to thinking about a school close by whereby their classrooms are not demarcated, and so you hear a lot of noise from classes, a lot of distractions as teaching is going on. And then I thought about it, if I would rise up and um, say to them, look, I want to take on this project for your school to help you demarcate the classes. Think about the impact it will make in the transformation of lives of the students, in the learning, in the focus, or think about what it will do to them. And looking at it, the cost might not even be maybe could be around 100,000 to 200,000 naira, and that is really a small amount to invest for a long time transformation in the lives of people. And so education as a whole, for instance, for example, is one sector that we can look at. It's one sphere of influence. And so in education, we talk about curriculum development, talk about policy making, funding, teacher training, even the school, the conducive environment where the students are being taught, classrooms, laboratories, equipment, and the rest of them. And so if people take on the responsibility of trying to fill in these different gaps, I think it will all come together and we'll see that transformation. I know that funding is key, and so a lot of people cannot do much and cannot even set their fees in schools high. And we are plagued with just a lot of problems in the education sector, including overtax, so much tax. The schools are taxed beyond what your mind can even comprehend. And if we are able, people can rise up to these different challenges to see that, look, I'm going to play a role. Voices are, we lend our voices, then there's going to be a difference. The public sector plays her role, the private sector plays her role, government plays her role, and then even individuals. Think about you becoming wealthy or getting a fund or thriving in business, and you go back to the school where you graduated from, and you're able to just make that little difference, build a classroom, build a hall, provide a basic amenity, whether it's drinking water, whether it's equipping the laboratories, whether it's buying books for the libraries, fixing fans, air conditioners, whatever it is that you can do. If we all rise up, I believe that in the midst of the bottlenecks, the corruption, the challenges will make a difference. And so we know that the whole essence of this school, is that God has placed you in a position for such a time as this, and you can leverage your resources. Sometimes um, you don't even have the finances, the funding, but you can leverage the resources. For instance, local government council ward can give you a hall to use for training people so many times for free, if you're able to just say, look, partner with us on this thing we are doing. And so these are different first. Sometimes you see how Nehemiah started. He didn't start with money, he started with negotiating with the king, talking to the king, and says to him, I also need a later, and I need this certain wood, these certain materials to go rebuild this walls. And so the first deposit of what Nehemiah needed for the wall, he received from the king. And so today we are studying, we're talking about people. If you look at the slides, the first slide says nobody rebuilds a nation alone. The wall was built because every family repaired what was nearest their own home. No single hero can rebuild a nation, but a nation of people who each take responsibility for their session, that nation cannot stay broken. And so we also see in the family system, for example, that the father, the man has to play his role. Um, there's a lot of contention about who is the provider, but when you see it from scriptures from beginning to the end, the man has always been a provider, because he is trusting the Lord, to help him to be able to provide. Adam tended the garden before the wife came. So it's now a partnership, but one person has to take responsibility and say, look, I'm responsible for this. Just like the mother spent a lot of time, with the children, nurturing them. Also, that is not to say that the man does not have a role to play in nurturing the children, but the mother stays a lot with the children, from giving birth, nursing, breastfeeding, you know teaching them how to begin to, potty practices, how to begin to go to toilet and the rest of it. So there are so many things. And so we'll say, this is our role here, this is my role here as a man, this is my primary role, this is the primary role of the wife, also. And so, but we all, both the father, the mother, the children, have to come together to play their respective roles to see that um we have a home that glorifies God and a home that transforms the nation. So many of the challenges we have today are in our nation. It's people who came from homes, basically, either a home that is whole, a home that is broken, a home where the father modeled integrity or corruption. So this is what we are seeing. And so we have to join forces to be able and then there will be seasons in the lives of certain couples also where a village has to come together and really support them and stand with them and say, look, you are not going to fail. And so everybody has to play their respective roles. And so, as much as this will transform you personally, you must know that this school is for national transformation. And this is the second slide. Nehemiah tree is not background, it is a theology. Chapter 3, this is module 4 of Nehemiah, is the chapter, is a model most readers keep. It is a long, dense list of names, priests and goldsmiths and perfume makers and merchants and doctors, all assigned to sections of the wall, all recorded building. Most people treat it as ancient municipal record keeping. This is a serious mistake. And so this is what it says. This is what it means. Number one, it shows us that national reconstruction requires not a hero, but a community of builders, each one in their assigned place, not a hero. So you can have the idea, but you can begin to talk to people around and share that vision that you have, whether it's a small community of 50 people or a large community of 500,000 people or 100,000 people. You can begin to share that vision, and as few people start, then you can see it grow and grow and grow. Number two, it shows us how gifted people are to be deployed, not randomly, but by proximity to the specific section of the world that corresponds to their life. So you have an assignment, you have a passion that God wants you, whether you have been put in agriculture, arts and entertainment, media, the family, the politics, religion, wherever you find yourself, education, wherever you find yourself, you must know that God has placed you there for a reason, and you have to begin to play that role. Number three shows us who is absent and names them. The nobles of Tekoa, who would not put their shoulders to the work, are in the permanent record. And so sometimes the reason why sphere of influence is not even experiencing that shift is because maybe there are three things or two things being handled there, but one thing is left. Sometimes for education, for example, maybe there's not enough policy making, maybe there's not enough implementation. A lot of times we know that one of in fact, the major challenge we face in the education systems, we've seen a lot of strikes even in with universities, is that thing about inadequate funding or the lack of will of the government to invest in education. And so you must play your role. Number four, it shows us who is expected. Daughters, perfumers, goldsmiths, national transformation uses every gift from every sector of every background. So you need to begin to profile, what does this person have? What do we need? And who has what we need to be able to rebuild this world? What does each person have? What is available? This is really, really important. Next slide. Everyone built. Nobody was too important. Nobody was too secure. The most striking feature of the builder list is its radically inclusivity. The high priest and his fellow priests were there. The goldsmiths were there. The perfume makers were there. The daughters were there. The merchants were there. The first is around the high priest in it says that they led the priest in rebuilding the sheep gate. Nobody was too important to pick up a trowel. And then verse 8 says, the goldsmiths, their craft was precious metals, not mercury, but they built anyway. Every gift has a wall. Verse 8 also talks about the perfumers, makers of fragrance, rebuilding stone walls. Your original calling does not disqualify you from the national assignment. Verse 12 talks about the daughters in a culture that rarely recorded women's contribution. Nehemiah wrote them in. Every builder matters. Every builder matters. The merchants, commerce, and construction in the same hands. Economic actors are nation builders too. They are nation builders too. People who sell, exchange goods, and services for money. They are nation builders too. The nobles who refused, verse 5, recorded for their absence in national transformation. Title without contribution is a liability, not an asset. And so, what role are you playing in the transformation of this nation, or trying to keep it corrupt the way it is? Uh, 24 hours ago, I read about a school that insisted that people pay the examiner in the ongoing WAEC, I think 5,000 naira each to be able to be allowed to get their scripts submitted, and the principal agreed to read, the examiner agreed to, the school agreed to read. I don't think that if the school had refused it, the examiner would have had any choice. And so there are these gaps that needs to be filled in places where righteous people of integrity will really rise and say no. How is it even possible that in system everyone is corrupt? That's because a few people are not lending their voice to what is right. Principle number two, repair the section nearest your own home. Call people the section of the wall nearest their home. The closer the assignment is to their existing life, their neighborhood, their sphere, their mountains, the more naturally their strength, creativity, and endurance will flow into it. Proximity is not convenience, it is calling. Have you ever wondered why, when people are to contest for election, I can't leave my local government area to go contest in another local government area? No one will vote for me, and I will not even be allowed. And have you ever wondered why I cannot leave my state, except maybe by marital alliance? I cannot leave my state, to go to another state where I'm not an indigent to contest an election. The only position in our nation where someone can become something from any part of the country is really is the presidency, and this is because he has just to is overwatching the entire country. And so we look at the House of Senate, House of Rep. This is all reflections of how important it is for people to carry the burden of their own people, and for people who understand the burden of their own people to rise up to the task. And so the challenges that we have in our nation today also is the fact that people who um, belong to a certain community have not risen up to that responsibility, and they're waiting for saviors from outside. But meanwhile, saviors are meant to arise from that community. And so I'm going to take the quote again. Call people to the section of the world nearest your own home. The closer the assignment is to their existing life, their neighborhood, their sphere, their mountain, the more naturally their strength, creativity, and endurance will flow into it. Proximity is not convenience, it is calling. So even when people employ big organizations, sometimes even the UN employ people to work, or try to get volunteer staff. They like people who are members of that community to really be the ones to be trained and employed for that position. So this is really important. So there are people in your office, there are people in your home, in your neighborhood, on your street, in your workplace, your sphere of influence, whether it's media, entertainment, arts, education, religion, family, agriculture, whatever it is. There are people that you can speak to and say, this is my vision, this is the problem that I see, and this is the vision I have for bringing a solution. This is very important. And so practically, um, eliminates coordination cost. If everyone is working on their own session, they need no central direction to know where to stand or what to do. As a teacher in the classroom, there's so much you can do. There's transformation that you can make happen in the lives of people. You don't teach as though you are just fulfilling a responsibility. You teach as though you are transforming a nation and you're transforming lives, thereby transforming a people and a nation. You teach with a sense of mission. That's how you teach. That's how you take that assignment, as a sense of mission to transform the minds of people and transform the lives. There's never been a time when I stepped into a class and just taught what I was supposed to teach. In the midst of that, I have that 2 minutes, that 5 minutes to really plant seed in the heart of a child. So this is important. Motivationally, this creates intrinsic rather than intrinsic investment. When you are building a wall in front of your own house, failure is personal, excellence is personal. When you are building a wall in front of your own house, failure is personal, excellence is personal. In your family, in your home, in your community, in your vicinity, this is very, very important. If you want a lot of things done, then you need to get people who are in the same sphere with you a lot of times, in the same community with you a lot of time, and just share the vision, paint the picture to them, and they will run with it. People don't mind bringing in their resources and giving their time if they are convinced that this will transform the community, not just their lives, a lot of times. So spiritually, this is statement about calling. You are not assigned randomly. The session nearest your home, your house, is the session your life has already been preparing you to build. So we all have experiences. We all have been faced with challenges in our lives. We all have gone through some trainings that have prepared us for the assignment that we see before us, and we have to begin to leverage this to really, really make a difference. Sometimes your name might not carry that assignment, not carry that difference you have made, but you go back, you sleep well, knowing that you were the one who engineered this transformation, or you were part of it. Principle number three: only one model can rebuild a nation. Model 1: Leadership of accumulation, the Nigeria default. The leader accumulates followers, people whose engagement with the work is mediated entirely through their relationship with the leader. When the leader is present, inspired, energized, the work moves. When the leader is absent, uncertain, or depleted, the work stalls. We build around personal loyalty, not around shared mission. We build platforms, not pipelines. We gather crowds, not coalitions. This model is incapable of rebuilding nations because it makes the work dependent on one person, and one person cannot carry a nation. One person cannot carry a nation. And so this is the model we have in our nation today, where almost every leader wants everything to revolve around them. People want their lives to be used for their own personal um, aggrandizement. But it's important that these leaders produce other leaders and see that they take their wars, in the community that they represent, on the state that they represent. And so when the leader is absent or certain or depleted, the work stores. We build around personal loyalty, not around shared mission. So we have to, politicians and every other person have to begin to share the mission, the assignment, the reason why they are getting into office in the first place, or where they are heading a school in the first place. We have to begin to share this with the teacher, share this with the people who serve us, also, and say, look, share this with even a spouse and children, that this is our assignment, this is our mission. Um, so it's important that a leader is able to work, operate this way. Model two, leadership of multiplication, which is in Nehemiah model. The leader's primary task is not to be the best builder, but to release the best builders into the assignment. Nehemiah's wall in chapter 3 is not primarily his wall, it is Eliashab's gate, Shalom's section, the daughter's contribution, the perfumer's stretch. Nehemiah built the coalition and held the strategy. The people built the wall. This is the only model capable of rebuilding nations because it multiplies capacity beyond any single leader's reach, energy, or lifetime. This is really, really important. Nehemiah is a man, a leader who stresses the importance of getting people to do the work um, that they have been equipped for, or to even equip them to do that work. And so we must not rely on just ourselves. We must multiply this effect in our communities, in the nation also. And so hence the reason why someone wants to stay in the National Assembly for 4 tenures, 5 tenures, because it doesn't think any other person deserves to be there. But it's time for us to rise, whether we're running a business, whether we're running a family, whatever it is that we're running, we must begin to replicate ourselves in other people. As a teacher, as a farmer, how are you replicating yourself, building that wall? When it comes to agribusiness, also, how are you able to, teach more people this? I say it a lot of times. This is not a season in Nigeria to amass a lot of money from the things that you teach. It's also a season to give back freely, to empower more and more people. We are not going to get the work done just by few people, consulting for government or consulting for organizations. We are going to get the work done if so many other people are equipped to really make a difference in the place that they find themselves in. So, how can we apply this? Three questions every nation builder must answer. Who is already building in my space? In Nehemiah chapter 3, we see the list. Before creating new structures and assembling new teams, identify who is already doing the work. They exist, they are scattered, unconnected, often unaware of each other. One of the most powerful things a leader can do is to become the connector, not the creator of the movement. Map the existing builders first. I'm going to say this again. I'm going to read this again. Who is already building in my space, in my sphere of influence? Before creating new structures and assembling new teams, identify who is already doing the work. They exist, they are scattered, unconnected, often unaware of each other. One of the most powerful things a leader can do is become the connector, not the creator of the movement. Map the existing builders. First, Nehemiah did not think about himself. He just wanted the work to be done, and he knew that he needed people who connected with that mission to help him to accomplish the vision. And so many times, you might be the one to catch that vision or carry that vision in your heart, but you need to be able to find people who already exist, who are already doing what you want to do, and who can, give you the advice, the counsel, who can support you, who can even partner with you to bring about that transformation where you want to see it. The second question is, who is nearest to each section of my wall? Once you have mapped existing builders and identified the gaps, the question is about assignment. Who is nearest to the specific section that needs to be covered? The temptation is to recruit based on availability, loyalty, or friendship. The Nehemiah model recruits based on proximity, spiritual, geographic, professional, experiential. And so once you have mapped existing builders and identified the gaps, the question is about assignment. Who is nearest to the specific section that needs to be covered? The temptation is to recruit based on availability, loyalty, or friendship. The Nehemiah model recruits based on proximity, spiritual, geographic, professional, experiential. Now, for example, let me use a math teacher. You have a concept in your mind, students are not doing well in mathematics in your school. How can you come together? I'm sure a school should have like two, three, if it's a secondary school, two, three mathematics teacher. How can we come together to find out, to find out to pinpoint the problem and to say what is the way forward? How can we get these people? What is the model that we can, the teaching model that we can create to see that every student understands what we are teaching? How can we bring simplicity into it? And then you test run this idea in your school, and you're able to get it to other schools and say, I think this is a way that mathematics should be taught, and um, in such simple way that your students can understand it. You can see you've gotten those people together. So this is really important. Number three question: who is missing that should be there? Who is not yet at the table? Who needs to be? A genuine nation building coalition in Nigeria must actively include builders from across the geographic, ethnic, denominational, gender, and generational spectrum, not as a gesture to diversity, but because every perspective represents a section of the world that only that builder can reach. Who is not yet at that table? uh, who is that person you need? A genuine nation building coalition in Nigeria must actively include builders from across the geographic, ethnic, denominational, gender, and generational spectrum, not as a gesture to diversity, but because every perspective represents a section of the world that only that builder can reach. And so we can find people in every tribe, from every tribe, diversity, community, whatever it is, state. We can find people who are qualified, who can be with us. Um, you know, when it comes to gender, comes to denomination, comes to generation, the young and the old, when it comes to the ethnicity, geography, also, we can all bring these things together and make sure that um, everyone is represented fully. So, Nigerian heroes, leaders who build coalitions, Wole Soyinka and Gani Fawemi, two leaders who refused to build alone and change the nation because of it. Wole Soyinka, the coalition builder of culture. Soyinka understood that cultural transformation requires coalitions across disciplines: writers, artists, academics, activists, and lawyers. He never worked alone. His resistance to military rule in Nigeria was built through networks of civil society, international literary communities, and fellow activists. His 1994 Geneva Accord on Nigeria's crisis mobilized an international coalition. He used his Nobel platform not for personal prominence, but to amplify the voices of others building in the same space. The proximity principle, his section was culture and leaders, and he never left it. He never left it, and um, he never saw it as insignificant. He did not look at himself, but he wanted to use what the fame he had gotten to transform the nation. And we look at today also at Gani Fayemi, the legal coalition for the poor. Fayemi built a coalition of lawyers, journalists, students, and community leaders around the single section of his wall: justice for the powerless. He did not try to fix everything. He was specific. He was proximate. He brought other builders alongside him, training young lawyers in public interest law, funding legal aid services, building institutions designed to outlive him. He was arrested 35 plus times, but the coalition held because the war was bigger than the builder. Nigeria's legal human rights architecture today reflects the work of his coalition. So this is really, really important that we value um, building together. Two leaders who refuse to build alone and change the nation because of it. And now the Nigerian case study, the proximity principle in action, community health workers. When proximity becomes power. Nigeria's community health worker program has at its best demonstrated the power of the proximity principle in the healthcare mountain. The community health extension worker stationed in a rural ward does not arrive from Abuja with a national program. She arrives from within the community, knowing its dialect, its culture, its seasonal rhythms, its trust networks. Her proximity is her primary qualification. The section of the wall nearest her house is the section she can build most effectively because she has already been living on it. Number one, proximity is the qualification. Proximity is a qualification. The CHWs, that's the community health workers' effectiveness, comes not from superior training, but from genuine rootedness in the community she serves. Number two, scale through multiplication. The program worked where it worked because it multiplied local capacity, not because it centralized expertise. Number three, the ensign principle. Every NC student has a section of Nigeria nearest their own home. That section is their specific calling and their most powerful contribution. Think about it. There are children in your neighborhood who can't read, but go to school. What about putting them up every Friday evenings or every Saturdays if you cannot do it every evening? Every Friday evenings, every Saturdays, and sometimes every Sunday evenings to be able to teach them how to read. How can we play our roles in the most simple way that we can to transform a life, and that life goes forward to transform more lives, and we become a nation that is transformed. So Ensign is the collision. You are the builder. Ensign was not built to create followers of Comfort Michael Sule. It was built to identify, connect, and deploy builders, each to the section of Nigeria's broken wall that is nearest their own home. Number one, identify your session. Which mountain, which specific pain point within that mountain. That is your wall session, not the most impressive wall, the nearest one. Number two, find your fellow builders. Who else is already building in your specific session? Before creating new structures, connect with people. You are not the first person at this wall. Number three, build, don't accumulate. As you build, train others to build. Release them into their sections. The goal is not a platform, it is a rebuilt wall, stone by stone, person by person. Number four, let entities connect you. NC's community is a coalition of builders across all 7 mountains. One of its primary purpose is to connect builders who should know each other. So as we close the day on week 4 people, the next session was prepared by his daughters. Nehemiah 3 verse 12. Reflection questions for week 4. Which section of Nigeria's broken wall is nearest your home, your mountain, your community, your sphere? Are you operating from the accumulation model or the multiplication model? What will it take to shift? Number 3, who are the builders already working in your session that you should know but don't know? Number 4, who is missing from your coalition that belongs there? What barrier is keeping them out? So NTINT is identifying builders, assigning sessions, rebuilding the nation, one wall at a time. And we always say from one life to another. So today I would like you, as you listen to this, rewatch this video, tell me in the comment section what caught your heart, what one thing you took away. How can you summarize what you have learned today? And tell me if you're going to be speaking to people this week to see that they help you accomplish that vision God has put in your heart, one word at a time. Please let more people know about this school. And this is a last cohort. This is the first and last cohort for this year, and we know that the next cohort will be really stronger, and we'll have more people also. And so go reward the videos from pain, people, prayer, positioning. It's going to really transform you. And don't forget to do your assignment. These reflection questions are meant to be answered and sent in. This will help you a lot. And look forward to the next class, which is on planning, and you're going to really love it. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your day.